ladies and gentlemen, Yusif Barakat. He's 80 and hopping up on the stage. Look at this. This is what 80 looks like, okay?
I see what 80 looks like. He's a beautiful man. February of 1960, I was honorably discharged from 4 years of active service with the U.S. Air Force, and I came back to Highland Park, where I grew up. Yay for Highland Park. Before that, worked midnights at Ford Factory and went to high school every day because my father died suddenly and I became responsible for my mother and sisters. And then I wanted to go to college, but I was burnt out, and the Air Force told me that they would send money to my mother and sisters, and so I flew away and saw the world. And when I got released, I knew I wanted to go to college, but I needed to get a job. So I opened the Detroit News, and there in big letters, account executive needed. I said, well, I always had a high value of myself. I'm an account executive. So I went and got an interview, and within 10 minutes, the guy says, okay, go to the Royal Oak office. I thought that was a little odd so quickly, but I said, okay. So Monday morning, I walked in proudly saying, I'm your account executive. And the manager said, and came and sat me down at an empty desk with a phone, handed me a bunch of envelopes, and said, here, call Mrs. Smith and tell her to pay the $400 she owes Dr. Brown. I said, what? He says, here, go ahead. Okay, so I dialed the number. Mrs. Smith, you're, what? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, it's so sad. Well, okay, thanks, bye. He said, what'd she say? I said, oh, her husband's out of work, her son broke his leg, her mother's in the hospital. He said, give me that phone. He grabbed the phone, dialed her number again. Mrs. Smith, can you look out your window? Is there a moving van out there? No? Okay, well, he's coming to pick up your furniture, and have him call me so I can tell him to pick up your refrigerator too. Well, within a few hours, Mrs. Smith was in with $400, and I needed a job. So I just went ahead and started working. Within 6 months, I became assistant manager, head of all the people that were there. And within a year, I was #1 out of their 24 branches of Michigan and Ohio. And that's because I applied different tactics, but they wouldn't listen to my new way of helping people. So I went out and started my own agency, Complete Credit Protection Incorporated. We had a little room above Davidson and Livernois above the theater there. And I started and was credit counseling, helping people budget their money, bring in your paychecks, we'll divvy up $5 here, $10 there, and got them out of debt. And so I began to grow, but I still wanted to go to college. So I called Bernie, who was the manager in the Royal Oak office, and I heard him and a friend, Vince, who was another manager in another office, talking about buying an agency. So I invited them to come, and they saw what I was doing, and they liked the idea of credit counseling, and I gave them 30% each, and I kept 40% as a senior partner. I felt pretty good about that. And I started going to school at night, and I carried 10, 15 hours at Wayne State. And Bernie apparently was one of those pathological liars. He would tell the staff he's going to finish law school, and so on and so on. But the staff would come into my office and ask me how the finals go and what am I studying now and that kind of thing. So Bernie got Vince to put their 30s together, made 60, and I was out the door. And I was totally shocked, upset. I'm an old country boy, you know, honesty is important. Well, anyway, there I was. And fortunately, while I was president of the corporation, I saved a little money, so I switched to all-day school at Wayne State, and I got bachelor and a master in 3.5 years, and I was very proud of that. Thank you. But at the same time, I was really upset that they just stole my business. So I was driving, trying to reconcile myself up Woodward Avenue in a VW Beetlebug back then, and I wanted to put a radio in my car. So I stopped at this place in Royal Oak on Woodward Avenue, and there was this car. It's a convertible, fire engine, red, beautiful. And I said, "What is that?" And the guy said, "Oh, that's an amphicar. It goes in the water and becomes a boat." I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "That must cost a fortune." He said, No. He says, "What's your VW worth?" I said, $800-900. He said, "I'll trade you even." I handed him the keys. I was in that car. I would take people down the river, and they wouldn't know it's a boat, and I'd act like I'm going crazy, and I'd dump it into the water. We'd be bopping between freighters out there. The freighters would go, honk, honk, honk. And I'd go, beep, beep. You can see all the crew looking over the railing, you know, looking down at this car bopping in the middle of the river. So anyway, I would go up north to Higgins Lake, and I'd be in the middle of the lake, and I'd creep up on a pontoon boat. They'd be fishing, quiet, everything. And I'd go, beep, beep. And they'd jump around. I'd say, "I'm lost. Which way is it to I-75? Well, needless to say, everywhere I went, people would ask me, "Do I want to sell it? How much do I want to sell it?" So, you know, I said, well, I went back to the guy where I got it from Royal Oak, and he told me that they're manufactured in Germany, but they have a headquarters in New York. So I took off to New York, and I walked in. There was all these cars in the showroom, and the guy said, "You want to buy one?" I said, "No, I want to buy a dozen." He said, "Oh, come with me, come with me." He took me to the manager. To make a story short, I signed the contract to become the agent for all of Michigan. So they gave me this cassette. It's a little TV screen with a handle and 8mm old cassettes. That some of you old enough to remember those. And I went around and I showed all my friends, "Look, in the water, out the water." So I got about $35,000 from different people, just in time for the truck to pull up and drop off the cars. I found the old Studebaker dealership on Dexter and Buena Vista. It had all glass room, showroom. It had a garage in the back with hoists and everything. And boy, we were in business. I had to get a new car license, a dealership from the state, used car. I had to go to the bank and get them to floor plan and to use credit for people buying the car, and on and on. So the insurance company, and we were doing great. In fact, a story you might enjoy is my sales manager was training a new salesman sitting next to him, and two big burly guys in the back seat, and they were taking him down to the Detroit River. And they go down traditionally by the Ambassador Bridge. There's a fire station there, and then there are ramps going in, and the police were following them from a distance. But they didn't know that. They're down, they went in the ramp, and the police just went right up and said, "Halt, halt." And the guy said, "Oh, everybody waves at us. Look, the police are waving at us." So they cross the river, they go up on the embankment, turn around, come back, which is a routine for how we show people how it works. Well, by then, they called the Windsor police, and the Windsor police pulls up just as they were back in the water, and he said, "Look, even Windsor police are saying hello." And WXYZ radio picked up on it, and there must have been pandemonium. Hundreds of cars came to there, and they were arrested, and they checked the car for drugs. I don't know what all. I thought I was out of business, but it turns out I got calls from all over the country for amphicars. So that worked out really good. And I just have so many stories. I saved a young boy in Oak Park during a flood. No emergency vehicle can go there, and I pulled right up to the porch, and I went in, got the child, took him to a police station on 7 Mile Woodward, and they took him in an ambulance, and he was saved. So we just had a lot of fun with it, and we had the amphibians, the amphicar club. And we'd be the halftime show at the boat races down in Detroit. And like airplanes doing maneuvers, we trained to do maneuvers, and it was so much fun. Well, right about then was 1967, and the uprising, erroneously called the riots. The safety standards came out. Thank you, Mom. You didn't have to come, really. The safety standards were out, and the car was the same car every year, just different title, different number on it. So it couldn't be converted into all the new things that had to be done. So the car went out of production. And there I was, sitting there in this. I had staff, employees, I had mechanics, I had just a great thing going, and suddenly I'm out of business. So at that time, a friend of mine, Abdeen, graduated college, and we had lunch to celebrate his graduation, and I told him I'm losing my business and I owe all this money to these people, and I told him I feel so bad that I got screwed out of my agency in the past. So we talked about it. And I said, you know, Abdeen, I think Bernie is so cheap, he probably doesn't file annual reports. I said, could you check? So he checked for sure. He didn't file annual report. So he filed a new corporation in my name 100%, under Complete Credit Protection Incorporated. That's also known as poetic justice. So, well, he filed the paper, he sent them a letter, said cease and desist. So that took him into a tailspin. There's no way they can operate. They had to change the name and everything. So he finally got me a settlement for $35,000, which I turned around and gave to the people that gave me the original money. And there I was. I walked away with a master's in international diplomacy. That and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee back then. And I just broke even, and I feel that I kept my integrity, and justice was done, and I went on to bigger and better things.
Yusif Barakat. How much is that car worth now?